Hey there, beautiful people. It's Dina bringing another daily dose. This has taken me many times to try to record this message, so there must be something important that God wants to see and the enemy's trying to stop it. So I'm going to keep on pressing forward and keep on trying to get this out to you. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine, and we were talking about the different seasons that people go through in life and how sometimes we can be in a comparison trap. We can look at somebody else's end and compare it to our beginning. We could think, I don't understand why I'm not far enough ahead, or why am I struggling so much and I can't seem to get to where they're at. I find myself doing that a lot. I feel like there's just no way I can do what they do, or I'm just not good enough. I don't sound like they do. And so we can start comparing ourselves to that, but we never know what somebody's walking through. We don't know what their part of their journey is. And we live in a world right now where everybody is exposing their lives on social media. And I grew up in a time where you didn't know what someone's house looked like or what their life was like unless you visited them. The only other way you looked at that was on TV, and most of the time that wasn't a true depiction of what life was either. So I grew up in a time where the TV shows didn't really show a lot of dysfunction. Everything seemed to be okay, and they were funny, or even if there was a drama that we were watching. It didn't really depict actually what was going on behind the scenes, and everybody longed to have those kind of families, those Leave It to Beaver families. Now I'm definitely showing my age. But that is not how real life is. And there are sometimes seasons that God asks you to go through that are hard. They're just hard to walk through, and we don't always share that with everybody, and we're putting on these masks and we're out there trying to pretend like everything is okay, and we might be bleeding on the inside because of something that we're walking through. And a lot of times I've shared, sometimes when you're sharing with somebody else what's going on, they don't really want to hear it. They can't carry the heaviness of what you're dealing, so a lot of times you got to carry that silently. But you're carrying it with God. You're never alone in that if He is asking you to carry a heavy season. But we've got to make sure that we're not comparing ourselves to what somebody else is doing, especially as women. Now, I don't know if men do this. And again, I speak because I'm a woman, and I'm sure that men go through this as well. But as women, we tend to compare ourselves, and we want to look right. We want our house right. We want, the perfect meal on the table. So we search Pinterest for the right recipe. We want our kids to be thriving. We put the perfect outfits together for them. I don't know if you're one of those moms that used to put your kids' clothes together so they all match. That was me. When my kids were really little, I wanted them to look good out in public. We try to do all these things. We're in a world now where everybody is filtered. Everybody is posting their highlight reel on social media. They're looking at the polished version of what their life is. And I know I've shared this many times, like we don't know how many shots it took to get that reel, or how many times when they show the beautiful portrait of their family, how many times the kids were crying, or maybe the husband and wife had an argument on the way to the photo shoot. But all you see is this family out in the woods and the sun is shining, just the perfect little sunlight droplets are just beaming down. That's not what real life is like and what it took to get that photo. Now, there's nothing wrong with photos like that. I would love to have a photo like that if I get my family all in the same location all at one time. It would be nice to have a family photo like that. But if you don't, it's okay. It's okay for you not to compare yourself to where somebody else is at. So when we are in a situation where we're trying to look at our life and wonder, why is my life not look like somebody else's? We just don't know what that person is going through. So being a special needs mom, my life is challenging all the time. As a matter of fact, as I was trying to record this, I was almost through. My daughter banged on the door because she wanted something. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with being a special needs mom. Any kid could do that. I'm just saying that I have to deal with a constant demand for my attention and 24/7 care sometimes, and it can be exhausting. And I might look at somebody else that doesn't have kids anymore. They're empty nesters, and my husband and I will never be empty nesters. And I could start to compare myself to that and think it's not fair. I don't want to do this anymore. And I found myself in that season of life so often. I was like, I just don't want to do this. I love my children, but I don't want to be a parent anymore. I don't want to do all the messy stuff anymore. And even in marriage, my gosh, there's so many seasons to marriage. Both my husband and I have been married before, but we've been married together 25 years. We've had so many different seasons of child raising and financial issues, and times where we were thriving and times where we felt like two ships passing in the night and we were just roommates. God's got us in different seasons because He's growing us. So if you're comparing yourself to somebody else's highlight reel, and God might be asking you to go through a season where you're quiet right now and He's healing you. Maybe maybe you are coming out of that season and you are now starting to do something that you haven't done, and it's a new uncharted territory, kind of like what I'm doing right now. And I could look at this territory of being a content creator and start comparing myself to everybody else and think, how do they do that on their reels? I don't know how to do that. I just want to turn on the camera and start talking, and I pray that God will bring somebody across my path that will actually listen to this. I feel like I got to jump through a lot of hoops in order to market it right and just do everything social media tells you to do in order to attract somebody to that. And sometimes I get discouraged and think, I just want to share my heart and my message. I don't want to do all this other stuff just to get somebody to watch the video and hope that it helps them. And sometimes we do got to jump through the hoops, but I'm just saying that don't compare somebody else's reel or content and think that they're so much better than you. Maybe they started off with just turning on the camera just like I'm doing right now. And there are times that I do compare myself. I compare myself to other moms. I compare myself to other special needs moms. Like, they're the ones that go to all the doctor's appointments and all the therapy appointments, and their kids are thriving, and I'm barely keeping mine alive sometimes. And we just got to break free from that, because there are different seasons in life that God will ask you to go through, and we just don't know where somebody's at or what they're calling them to do. So even us, if we're looking at somebody else and judging, maybe they should be further along. Maybe God's the one that put a halt on whatever it is they're doing. I'm in the middle of writing my book. I've been trying to get written for the last 2 years, but it's been in my heart for decades. But I've been trying to get this written for the last 2 years, but God has radically transformed who I am in the process of starting that book. So it could look like I'm delayed, or what's going on, or I'm not doing the right things. I'm not dotting all the I's or crossing all the T's. But what I would have written 2 years ago is not what I have written now. I don't think I would have written from a healed place like I am right now. So God is the one that delayed that. It's not me. It's not necessarily my disobedience or my lack of putting the time in. God's transforming me and my story. It's changing and evolving every single day. And when it's time, it will come with acceleration, because that's how God works. So whatever season you're in, if it feels like it's delayed, or it feels like you keep going around that mountain over and over again, it's okay. It's okay. Take your eyes off of what you have to do and put your eyes back on God and partner with Him. And don't compare yourself. If you've got to turn off social media and turn off Instagram filters and stop looking on Pinterest for the perfect recipe and just make your family dinner, as long as it's palatable and, they can eat it. I'm just saying, you don't have to compare yourself to anybody else to try to be anybody else. So I want to read you a couple scriptures and leave you with this. And again, I looked up, what does the Bible say about seasons of life and things? And there's just so many scriptures, but I picked out a few that I felt were really relevant to what I'm going through right now. The first one is in Genesis 8:22, and this is in the New Living Translation. It says, as long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. Meaning there's good and bad. There's pain and there's joy. You could literally be walking through a season where you're in joy and pain at the same time. It can be hard and good at the same time. Honestly, that is what the season of being a special needs mom is like. It's the season of marriage too. It could be beautiful, and it could be the most painful thing that you've ever walked through. Good and bad in everything. And it is okay to be in both places. Daniel 2:21, and this is actually in the easy to read version, which I don't usually read, but I thought the way it was worded was really good. It says, he changes the times and seasons. He gives power to kings, and he takes their power away. He gives wisdom to people so they may become wise. One translation said that he gives wisdom to people who have discernment. So the more you seek God, the more He will give you discernment. The more you want to know His ways and His word, if you want His word to come alive, He will give you those deep and hidden things that we did not know. That's Jeremiah 33:3. I am in a season where I just want to know God's voice. I want to know what His word says. I want to know, where does it say that in the Bible? Because I'm not looking for answers in the world. It leaves me empty. It leaves me unfulfilled if I'm looking for answers in the world. So I'm hungry for God's word, and He gives you discernment to be able to discern whether that is truth or not. But here's the final scripture that I want to leave you with, and it's quite lengthy, but it is the thing that actually is what I'm talking about the most. And it's in Ecclesiastes 3:1-11, and I'm reading it in the Amplified Version. And this is the one that everybody has heard of. There's a time and a season for everything. Well, this is actually what it says. There is a reason, a time appointed for everything, and a time for everything, delight and event or purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. I'm going to stop right there. There is a time to plant something, and then there's a time that sometimes God uproots it. Sometimes He pulls it out. Maybe the weeds are choking you out. Maybe there's so much dysfunction in your life that he's got to cut you down at the roots so you can start over. I talked about that in another video. Sometimes he's got to pull out all the things that are choking the plant. So there's a planting season, and then there's a harvest season, and sometimes there's just a cutting it all down and starting over season. It goes on to say a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away. We need to do that in our own life. There's so many things that we're hanging on to that need to be thrown away, whether it's in the physical and purging your house of things that are just taking up space, that are taking up energy, good positive energy in your life. It's time to get rid of the clutter. But in our life, sometimes it's relationships. Sometimes it's groups you're part of. Sometimes it's just something that is just no longer working anymore, and it's time to let that go. God will let you know. He's done that so many times with me, and you're trying to hang on and hold on to that. And he's like, no, that season's over. That's exactly what happened with our youth outreach, and it was one of the most painful, felt like death seasons of my life, but it was time to let that go. No matter how beautiful it was and how long we were able to enjoy that, it was time to let that go, and I had to come to terms with that. It goes on to say a time to tear apart and a time to sew together, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What profit is there for the worker from that in which he labors? I have seen the task which God has given to the sons and men on which to occupy themselves. This is what I like where it ends. He has made everything beautiful and appropriate in its time. He has also planted eternity, a sense of divine purpose. In the human heart, a mysterious longing which nothing under the sun can satisfy except God. Yet man cannot find out, comprehend, or grasp what God has done, his overall plan for the beginning to the end. God has a plan, and it is good. I say that all the time. I end every video with that. But sometimes it seems like it's not a good plan, and sometimes you don't know what's going on, and you're left feeling pain and confusion. You're bleeding from the inside, and God's got to do some triage. Sometimes he's got to put you in a spiritual coma. Honestly, if you ever heard of the term a medically induced coma, sometimes somebody has to go into a coma because they're waiting on a life-saving surgery, or maybe there's an organ transplant that they're waiting for, and the only way to keep them alive is to put them into a coma. Sometimes he's got to do that to your life. Sometimes he's got to put you in a spiritual coma because you are bleeding on the inside, and he's got to find the root cause of that. Sometimes it's because he's doing such deep, deep work in you that he's got to pull you out of everything, and it feels like you're in a cave, and I've been through that. I'm just now really coming out of that dark season, and I share about that very openly on this channel because I just hope that somebody understands that that's not a bad thing. I used to think of it as a bad thing. I used to think of myself as a failure. What did I do wrong to deserve this? And now I see it as this beautiful transformation that God was doing that I did not see in the darkness. But now he's bringing me out into the light, but I'm still on the journey. There's so many times I have to go back and say, God, I want to go back into the cave because this is too hard. So anyway, I'm just saying that we don't know what God is doing, and he's got such a beautiful plan for our life. And then also I want to leave you with Galatians 6:9. This is one of my life scriptures that I always say that I just meditate on so often. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season, if you shall not faint, you will reap a harvest. If you keep going and you don't give up, you will reap. If you're in a season where you just feel like no matter what I do, it just doesn't seem like it's good enough, don't give up. Keep doing good. Don't grow weary. In due season, in the right season, we'll reap a harvest. I promise you. Sometimes you got to know what season you're in. And don't compare yourself to anybody else. I don't care if you're in a group of people that are all doing the same thing as you and you feel like you're left behind. God might have you in that spot for a reason, and you're not on that other person's journey. That might be their end reel, and you're in the beginning or in the middle. So don't give up. Don't lose hope. Remember, he has a plan for you. It is good. There are seasons to everything. And I love you. So I hope this encouraged you, and I can't wait for us to be back together again. Have an awesome day. Bye.